It is a tale of coincidence, audacity, and a touch of humor that revolves around Rohan and Priya. But before diving in, let me paint a picture of our protagonists. Picture Rohan, a man who has an enigmatic personality. Life dealt him a cruel blow with the death of his father, and since then, he's been a man of few words, speaking only when necessary. On the other hand, there's Priya, a soft-hearted soul, always ready to lend a hand. Bright and capable at work, she's also a bit scatterbrained. Now, let's set the stage. The day began with a flurry of chaos for Priya. "Oh no. It's my first day at the office, and I'm still home," she exclaimed, darting around her house. "Wait, child. At least take your tiffin," her mother called out from the kitchen, but Priya had already dashed out the door. Outside, she stood by the roadside, scanning for an auto-rickshaw. But as fate would have it, not one was in sight. Growing anxious, she spotted a lone auto parked by a tea stall. Its driver was enjoying a leisurely cup of tea. Wasting no time, Priya hopped into the auto. Surprised to see her, the driver approached and said, "Madam, you can't just sit here. All autos are on strike today. You'd better look for a lift, no auto will take you anywhere." Annoyed, Priya muttered curses under her breath as she stepped out. She waved at passing cars, hoping one would stop, but to no avail. Frustrated yet determined, she suddenly saw a car approaching. Without thinking twice, she stepped in front of it, arms outstretched, forcing the driver to slam on the brakes. Inside the car, Rohan was immersed in work on his laptop when the sudden halt jolted him. Irritated, he snapped at his driver, "If you can't drive properly, hand in your resignation by tomorrow." "Sorry, sir," the driver stammered, but a young lady just jumped in front of the car. Before the driver could finish, the car door opened, and Priya climbed in. For a moment, Rohan was taken aback, his irritation momentarily replaced by curiosity. However, he quickly reverted to his usual stern self. "Excuse me, madam," the driver protested. "You can't just get into the car like that." "Sorry, uncle," Priya replied hastily, "but I must get to my office urgently. There's no other way. Please, just drop me at my workplace, or my boss will fire me on my very first day." "Where exactly do you need to go?" the driver asked, bewildered. "To KY Group, surely you've heard of it." "It's a massive company," Priya said proudly. "Take her," Rohan instructed tersely, though his eyes lingered on her for a moment longer than he intended. As the car started moving, Priya turned to Rohan and scolded, "How rude. That gentleman is older than you, yet you address him so casually. Imagine if someone spoke to you like that. How would you feel?" Rohan clenched his jaw, irritated by her audacity but said nothing. Moments later, Priya asked the driver to stop the car abruptly. "What now?" Rohan snapped. "Just a moment," Priya replied, stepping out and crossing the road to assist an elderly woman who was struggling to cross the street. Rohan watched, his annoyance dissipating into quiet admiration. When Priya returned, she resumed her seat without a word, and the car continued its journey. Finally, they arrived at KY Group. As she prepared to leave, Priya handed some money to the driver. But before he could refuse, she turned to Rohan with a parting shot, "You could learn a thing or two about kindness. See you around." Little did Priya know, the man she had lectured about manners and respect was none other than her new boss. And Rohan, for the first time in years, found himself intrigued. When the driver refused to accept the money, Priya simply said, "Uncle, please, take it. Think of me as your daughter." Hearing this, the driver's face softened, and he graciously took the money. Priya then stepped out of the car and entered the office building, leaving Rohan still seated in the back, deep in thought. After a few moments of contemplation, Rohan finally spoke. "Uncle, take me home." Hearing the words, "uncle," from his boss, the driver couldn't help but smile. Without another word, he steered the car towards Rohan's house. Upon arrival, Rohan entered, and his mother, noticing the early hour, raised an eyebrow. "Rohan, my dear, why are you home so early today? Did you skip the office?" she asked, clearly puzzled. But before she could finish, Rohan, as always, didn't respond and simply retreated to his room. His silence struck her as odd, especially as she noticed Raju grinning in the corner of the room. "Raju, come here," she called out sharply. Raju, who had been merrily watching, darted over. "Yes, madam, what is it?" do you need something? I'll get it right away, he said, breathlessly. Hold on, Raju, take a breath first. Now, tell me, what's happened to Rohan? Why is he so happy today? And why did he skip the office? You seem rather cheerful yourself. There's something going on, isn't there? She asked, eyeing him closely. Raju couldn't suppress a smile. Madam, Rohan sir's mood is still a mystery to me, but as for me, I'm very happy today. Happy? Why? Rohan's mother asked, intrigued. Because today, Rohan sir called me uncle, Raju replied with a grin. What? He did what? She exclaimed, her eyes widening in disbelief. How did that happen? Madam, it's all thanks to a new girl at the company, Raju replied, his smile widening. That's the reason for this miracle. At the mention of the new girl, a glimmer of curiosity appeared on Rohan's mother's face. The very next day, when Priya walked into her cabin, she was startled to find someone already waiting for her. To her surprise, it was none other than Rohan himself. Hello, she blurted out, slightly flustered, what are you doing here? Okay, fine, I admit you helped me yesterday, and I thank you for it. I even paid your driver. So, what more do you want now? This is my workspace, so please don't make a scene. Rohan remained calm, letting her words hang in the air before finally introducing himself. As soon as Priya heard his name, it was as though the ground beneath her feet had disappeared. She stumbled over her words, wait. What? You mean? But she couldn't finish her sentence. The realization dawned on her, and she was left speechless. Rohan observed her reaction with a slight smile, although he kept it hidden behind his usual composed exterior. For a moment, he enjoyed the awkwardness of the situation. Finally, he stood up, walked towards her, and gently guided her to sit down on a chair. Leaning in slightly, he whispered in her ear, Miss Priya, maybe you should talk a little less. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Priya to grapple with the sudden shift in her understanding of her situation. She had come here for a job, but little did she know that her new boss was the very man she had so boldly lectured. She sat there, lost in confusion and embarrassment, wondering what she was supposed to do now. A while later, as Priya was gathering herself, an office assistant arrived with a message. Miss Priya, Rohan sir would like to see you in his office. Fear gripped her. Is he going to fire me, she thought, pacing nervously. I should apologize, maybe that'll save my job. Steeling herself, she made her way to his cabin. Before entering, she took a deep breath to calm her nerves. As she stepped inside, she immediately apologized. Rohan sir, I'm so sorry for yesterday. I didn't mean to offend you. Rohan, with a cool tone, responded, what exactly are you apologizing for? His eyes locked onto hers, and for a brief moment, Priya wasn't sure if he was angry or not. I'm sorry for what happened yesterday and for what I said to you and your driver, she stammered. Rohan looked at her for a moment before softening. You can just call me Rohan. No need for formality, he said with a hint of amusement. Priya, still in shock, blinked at him. I don't understand. Are you angry or not? She asked, utterly confused. Do you enjoy staring at me, Miss Priya? Rohan teased, his tone playful. He enjoyed seeing her flustered, for reasons unknown to him. Days passed, and Rohan's mother decided to visit the temple. After offering her prayers, she was making her way down the steps when disaster struck. She slipped and tumbled down the stairs, injuring herself. Meanwhile, Priya had also gone to the temple that day. As she approached, she noticed a crowd gathered around the temple steps. Moving closer, she saw an elderly woman lying there, blood dripping from her forehead. Without hesitation, Priya rushed to help her, arranging for her immediate transport to the hospital. Priya, having taken a few days off due to a personal health issue, decided to stay at the temple to assist. She had no idea that the woman she was helping was none other than Rohan's mother. Rohan, busy with his work, had been unaware of his mother's fall. It wasn't until later that he learned the truth about the mysterious woman who had been taken to the hospital by none other than Priya. This twist of fate seemed to pull them even closer, though neither of them yet realized the significance of these encounters. How would this turn of events affect their relationship? And what lies ahead for Priya at KY Group? Only time will tell. Rohan, who was supposed to be away from the city for a couple of days due to work commitments, remained unaware of the events that had unfolded in his absence. However, 2 days later, when Rohan's mother regained consciousness, the only name that slipped from her lips was Rohan. Upon hearing this name, Priya was struck with a sense of confusion. How does she know Rohan, she wondered. But before she could ponder further, Rohan's mother slipped back into unconsciousness, leaving Priya to brood over the mystery of their connection. With a furrowed brow, Priya dialed Raju's number. She knew Rohan wouldn't be in town for a while, and she needed answers. Raju, come to the hospital immediately, she instructed him, her voice tinged with urgency. Within moments, Raju appeared at the hospital. When Raju saw Rohan's mother lying in the bed, he muttered, This is Rohan sir's mother. We've been searching for her for the past 2 days. Barely had he spoken those words when Rohan's mother regained partial consciousness. As she did, she weakly asked, Raju, where is Rohan? Raju responded, Madam, I've told her. He's left the city. But no sooner had he spoken than Rohan arrived, rushing into the hospital room. Priya, who was standing there, stepped forward to tell him everything, but before she could utter a word, Rohan, in a rush of anger, turned on her. His mother called out to him from the bed, but he was too absorbed in his fury to listen. Why didn't you inform me about this sooner? He shouted at Priya, ignoring his mother's calls. Priya, unable to handle the barrage of harsh words, turned and fled, tears welling up in her eyes. It was only after Priya had left that Rohan finally approached his mother's side. It was then that he learned the truth: Priya had been the one to save his mother's life. In a rush of guilt, Rohan understood that his mother had been taken to the hospital by Priya, who had stayed with her and cared for her selflessly. His mother, though weak, shared with him, Despite not knowing me, Priya looked after me without hesitation, and you, my son, you treated her so unfairly. Rohan's heart sank as he realized the gravity of his actions. His mother, though in pain, scolded him, She helped me, saved me, and you threw your anger at her for no reason. Go and apologize. The next day, as Priya arrived at the office, she was summoned to Rohan's cabin. Her heart raced as she entered. Priya, he began, looking genuinely remorseful, I owe you an apology. I'm sorry for everything I said. You saved my mother's life, and I treated you so badly. He paused as if struggling with his emotions. She's the only person I have got. The fear of losing her made me lash out at you. For that, I am truly sorry. Priya stood there, uncertain of how to respond. But as she looked at the envelope in her hand, she tore it open without a word. The action was swift and silent, and Rohan, noticing her sudden gesture, asked, What is this? Without saying a word, Priya left the cabin, leaving Rohan to contemplate the torn papers. When he gathered them together and pieced them back, his heart skipped a beat. The papers revealed something he hadn't anticipated: Priya had come to quit her job. She had planned to leave, but why hadn't she followed through? The question hung in the air, unanswered. But despite everything, a soft smile crept across Rohan's face. He could sense the shift, something unspoken between them, something neither of them had fully acknowledged yet. What will happen next? Well, stick around, and you just might find out. To be continued.